Well, it's winter, and I've got a lot of little things I can catch up on. This is one of them. I'm going to rebuild this Johnson OMC, Evinrude, whatever you want to call it, BRP fuel pump. It's for small outboards. This came off of a 9.5 horsepower sportswin, but you'll see the same fuel pump used on a number of different things. So let's get on with it. What we will be using on this, it's a Sierra rebuild kit. I like the Sierra kits. I think Sierra makes a lot of useful outboard parts, and they're a good aftermarket if you don't want to go OEM or spend the money that you would have to with OEM parts. And the only other thing you'll really need is a screwdriver, and that's it. So let's get on with it. So here's the old fuel pump. I've got everything out of the kit. I'm just going to lay all these parts out. A lot of these kits are made for multiple different fuel pumps, so we may not use all of these, but the way we're going to do this is we're going to be really careful about how we disassemble it and just watch exactly what's coming out. Make sure we have everything here. Alright, so start. This is the easy part, right? See, there's a screen in there. There is no replacement screen in this kit, but you may want to take the opportunity, if it looks like that screen is dirty, to clean it. In this case, I'm not, because the screen looks actually relatively clean. So I'll probably just give it a spray down with some carb cleaner and call that done. Now I'm going to lay these parts down exactly as they come off. And then what I'm going to do is take the matching part from the kit and put it exactly the way it came off. So you can see there's some different contours on this. These two contours here for the screws. So we're going to just lay it exactly to match the part that came off. Now we're going to take these screws off. Take our trusty screwdriver. And notice I'm using my thumb to put pressure down. There is a spring as part of this assembly. I don't think it's directly underneath here, but just in case, we're going to do that little bit of a pressure on it. And we want to make sure that we have a matching gasket for this one, which in this case we do. That would be this one right here. And again, I'm going to set this down in the exact order it came out. Remember, it came off from that direction. There's also a little notch here to indicate that it should line up with this. So I'm going to place this just like that. The good thing with this gasket is no matter how you place it, it's going to be in the right position. Anyway, so let's put that down there. The next step is, that's the funny part that I was waiting for. There's a spring in there. So let's just see what that looks like. This side has the diaphragm, and that's the spring went in there. So that came off like so. Underneath here there's going to be a very small spring and a cap, so let's peel that off. There goes the spring. That was the spring and the little valve. So this one came off like this. So notice there's two tabs on this. What we want this is to match how that came off, so that's going to be like that. So I'm just going to lay that there. Of course, there's any one of a number of combinations. This one has to go on like this, because that's exactly the way that other one came off. So after doing some things with a razor blade, which I didn't want to show on video because I'd probably get sued for somebody cutting their finger off. Here's the clean, if you will. I'm going to hit it with some brake cleaner. This one definitely needs it, no doubt about it. What I am going to do is we're just going to cover that stuff up and hit it with the brake cleaner. Alright, so everything I've told you about keeping track of what came off of that, throw that shit out the window. Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you exactly how to put this back together correctly and without any problems. What you want to do is you want to start with the base, of course. Make sure these two little tabs face upward. When these are mounted on the engine, that's where they should face. But you want these upward. Now, there's a threaded slot here and a threaded slot here. And what I'm going to do, I know this sounds pretty goofy, taking a nail and I'm poking a hole in this piece of cardboard. Basically, I'm sticking two nails up on there. You could use the screws that are originally used to hold it together, but they're not really quite long enough. So let's start with the base. You want to make sure that those two tabs are facing upwards. We'll slide that on there. Now, what's going to happen with the base is that two things are going to go on here. It's going to be a spring, and there's going to be a diaphragm for the pump. So I'll go ahead and put the diaphragm on right now, and I'm just going to align one of these so that it's lined up with the tab on the base. So let's get that on there real quick. There's a little cap that comes with the spring. That little cap will go in the center of the diaphragm, like so. Alright, so that's a start. Now the next piece that's going to go on is this. Get back out a little bit. So one of the things I want to show you is you want these two tabs. If you remember, we have two tabs on the base. We want to get them lined up so that they're facing upwards. And also another way to check it is that there's a little vent. Those would face away from the tabs. So let's get that on there. Now, you want to also make sure that this little indentation is where the spring sits in. It's usually not a problem with this spring. It's usually pretty easy to get in there. Alright, so now that that's in, now comes the fun part. The orientation on these things are finicky, I guess you could say. The first thing we want to do is get this gasket on. Now if you look, there's matching slots, kind of a semi-curve. You just want to put these on there, put this on there, so that the openings in the gasket match the openings on that base. Okay, now this is where the big question and the confusion comes in, because quite frankly I haven't seen anybody explain this very well. There's going to be a diaphragm that goes over this, and there's also going to be a small spring and cap that goes in either one of these two. Where it goes in depends on how this is oriented. So let me explain this to you real quick. I'm going to start with in this position. One thing you want to do is no matter where you orient this tab has to line up with one of those tabs that I pointed out earlier. And the way this spring will be oriented is wherever the spring is has to have access to the outlet. Now if you notice, there's also a little pass-through, if you will. So let's look at it in this case. If you go in this direction, outlet's here, spring will go there. Notice I'm turning this around. This is still oriented with one of the tabs. However, the outlet here through this airway or passage has access to the spring here. So let's go one more time. If we want to go this way, let's look and see where the spring belongs. Here's the outlet. Here's the little passage. Spring would go here. And if we spin this around so the outlet's pointing down, it's directly here. So I'm going to go ahead and orient this so that it's going out sideways like so. And what that means is I'm going to need the spring to be here. Outlet, gap, or pass-through spring. So now comes the fun part. Getting this spring on here. This is probably the hardest part of doing this assembly. And of course, none of my videos would be complete unless there was a noise of a phone going off. I always forget to silence mine. So, alright, so that one's there. And what we want to do is we want to put this on so that the holes are oriented the same way as the gasket underneath. And I'm going to peek underneath of here and straighten that spring out. Hopefully we'll get it in there. Again, this is the hardest part of this entire endeavor. Alright, so I'm actually putting pressure on it, and we should have that. There we go. If you can see that, it doesn't look like it's centered though, so let me double check it. I'm just going to move that a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to put pressure down on it. Alright, so what I'm doing at this point is just checking to see that the spring's underneath there, and it is. I'm getting good good bounce back. Let me zoom in on that, see if I can give you a little better shot. Holding it all together is fun. So there we go. So again, I hope that was clear as far as how to orient this in relationship to the spring. So once we have that on there, you know, the next step is to go ahead and put this gasket on it. There's no orientation. You can't get this one wrong. So we'll place that on there. And what we want to do after that is get the plate. Alright, so let's get this on here. Remember, we have these tabs on the outside. You want the U to be facing up. And what you want to do is place this on there so that this is oriented with the tab on this side. The next step after this is going to be getting the screws in there. So notice we've got these nails still holding everything together. See if we can get it off of that stand. And that's pretty much together now. We can orient this in any direction you want, but of course you want to put your gasket on there. The gasket does have some cutouts so that the screws will fit. And if you notice, no matter where you sit the gasket, it's going to give you access to the screw hole as well as to the gas inputs. So let's put this in here like so. Alright, so we've got the fuel pump done. There's a little test that you can do. Let me zoom in and show you this because it's pretty interesting actually. There's another one that you won't find in too many places. If you blow in through the input, give you a little horn sound, but you should be able to blow in through there. The output side should be solid. If that doesn't pass that test, then something went wrong in the assembly line. Again, where the gas goes in, where the gas goes out, nothing. Or you can suck on it, don't make noise. Let's zoom it back out. Assembling them wasn't really that hard. I hope I've given you some explicit instructions. They actually came directly from the manual. I found somebody had posted copies of the instructions from the manual. So the biggest challenge has always been how to orient the spring in relationship to the output. And the manual is very clear. So I hope I've been able to relay that to you. And if I have, hit like, and don't forget to share. If this has been helpful, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.